Not yet. Still not yet. Now.
There are a lot of terrifying villains in anime, but Ryomen Sukuna feels different. Not just because he's strong either, it's the atmosphere around him. The second Sukuna shows up in Jujutsu Kaisen, everything feels heavier. Characters tense up, the pacing changes, and even the audience kind of braces for impact because deep down, you know something bad is probably about to happen. And I think what makes him so interesting is that the story never really rushes to explain him. A lot of anime villains get introduced with some tragic backstory or some giant speech about how society failed them. Sukuna doesn't give a shit about any of that. The series almost treats him like a legend first and a character second. Before we fully understand cursed energy, before we understand the world, we already know his name, the King of Curses. And somehow that title actually feels deserved. Not in a flashy anime kind of way either, more in a people genuinely fear this thing kind of way. You can feel it whenever characters talk about it. Even powerful sorcerers don't speak about Sukuna casually. There's always this tension underneath the conversation, like they're referring to a disaster that could happen at any moment. And honestly, that's part of why he stands out so much to me. Because Sukuna never feels humanized in the way most modern villains do. There's no moment where the story tries to make you feel bad for him, no emotional flashback designed to soften him, no scene where he suddenly starts caring about innocent people. If anything, the series goes out of its way to remind you that this dude genuinely enjoys destruction. And that unpredictability makes him terrifying. You never really know where a scene with Sukuna is going to end. Sometimes he's calm, sometimes he's entertained, sometimes somebody says the wrong thing and suddenly everything explodes. That kind of energy makes every appearance memorable because the tension always feels real, especially with Yuji Itadori. Their dynamic is honestly one of my favorite parts of the series because Yuji is such an emotionally grounded protagonist. He cares about people constantly, he overthinks death, he carries guilt around everywhere. Meanwhile, Sukuna looks at human life with complete indifference. And I think that contrast is what gives the story so much weight. Yuji wants to save people because he believes life matters. Sukuna only respects strength. That's it. There's no secret kindness hidden underneath everything, no good side waiting to come out later. And the Junpei situation proves that brutally early. That moment completely changes the tone of the series because Yuji realizes Sukuna is not somebody he can reason with, but none of it matters. Sukuna watches that entire situation unfold almost like he's amused by it. And honestly, I think that scene is where a lot of people realize JJK was playing by different rules. Because in a lot of shonen anime, the inner demon eventually becomes an ally. Here, Yuji is basically sharing a body with a walking catastrophe. And the story never lets you forget that. What's also interesting about Sukuna is how self-aware he is. He knows exactly what he is and never pretends otherwise. There's no identity crisis, no moral conflict, no internal struggle where he wonders if he should change. He enjoys power, he enjoys violence, he enjoys reminding people how small they are compared to him. And weirdly enough, that confidence is part of what makes him so entertaining to watch. Every scene feels controlled, even when Sukuna is doing something chaotic, it still feels deliberate somehow. Like he's always 10 steps ahead of everybody in the room. The fight with Jogo is a perfect example of that. Because yeah, the animation's insane, but what really makes that fight memorable is the way Sukuna carries himself the entire time. He's not desperate, he's not struggling. Half the fight feels like he's just indulging himself because he finally found something mildly entertaining. And then somehow the scene gets even better once he acknowledges Jogo near the end. Sukuna almost never gives people genuine recognition. So when he finally does, it hits harder than some emotional speech ever could. But if the Jogo fight shows his composure, what happens next shows his absolute malice. Because nothing captures the true horror of Sukuna quite like the Shibuya incident. Up until that point, we knew he was dangerous, we knew he was cruel, but Shibuya is where the concept of the King of Curses becomes a concrete nightmare. When he drops Malevolent Shrine, it isn't just a cool anime superpower, it's a meat grinder. The story doesn't pan away, it shows you the math of the destruction, the radius, the seconds, the literal dust left behind. And the most twisted part, he does it all knowing Yuji will have to wake up and look at the crater. It's psychological torture disguised as collateral damage. When Yuji collapses in the rubble, screaming and tearing at his own skin, you realize the true depth of Sukuna's cruelty. He didn't just destroy a city block, he broke the protagonist's soul, completely unprovoked, just because he had a spare 15 minutes. It's strange too, because Sukuna barely needs long monologues to feel intimidating. The voice acting does a lot, the pauses do a lot. Even the way he smiles sometimes tells you everything you need to know. There's this constant feeling that normal rules don't apply to him. Like everybody else in the story is surviving the world of Jujutsu sorcery, while Sukuna exists above it. And honestly, I think that's why he feels less like a traditional villain and more like a force of nature. A hurricane doesn't care who gets caught in it. Sukuna has that same energy throughout the series. He doesn't destroy people because he thinks he's fixing the world. He destroys people because he can. And in a weird way, that simplicity almost makes him scarier than villains with deeper motivation, because there's literally nothing to negotiate with. At the same time though, I think Sukuna works so well because Jujutsu Kaisen never tries too hard to make him cool. He already is. The story doesn't constantly stop to remind you how dangerous he is because his actions already do that naturally. When Sukuna appears, the atmosphere changes immediately. You feel it. And that's rare, honestly. A lot of anime villains are iconic for a specific arc or moment. Sukuna feels important every single time he shows up. Even when he's barely speaking, you're paying attention because there's always this feeling that something awful could happen at any second. And I think that's why the title King of Curses fits him perfectly. Not just because he's powerful, but because he genuinely embodies the ugliest parts of the world Jujutsu Kaisen is built around. Violence, ego, cruelty, power without empathy. He feels like the physical embodiment of everything the series fears most. And honestly, that's what makes him unforgettable. Hope you guys enjoyed the Sukuna breakdown. We also reached 600 subscribers, so thank you guys. If you have another character recommendation I should break down next, let me know in the comments. This is Anime Under the Surface, and I'll see you guys next week.